So this is like the top one. When I did Algorand price prediction, this is the one that came up. So I haven't watched this before. I just queued this up for the show. So we're gonna see how this goes. In the meantime, by the way, guys, if you haven't hit that like and subscribe button, I'd love it if you do so. And remember, we got channel memberships, and we're gonna be drawing one channel member is going to get 1 million Nico today. So Feely should be coming on around 3 to do that. Hopefully, hopefully that works out. And yeah, no guests. I'm actually kind of surprised no guests have arrived. Because I had quite a few who said they were interested in coming, but we'll see if anyone pops in. In the meantime, let's watch this. Let's watch this video and react to it.
Have you ever wondered when is the best time to actually sell your Algorand bags? Well, if so, you're in luck because today we're going to be jumping down into the charts trying to predict exactly when Algorand is likely to peak in 2025. As I get into the video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe, and let's get into it. Okay, so in order for us to truly understand where some of these altcoins might be able to find their bull market peaks, we should actually spend some time taking a look at Bitcoin and where Bitcoin has historically found its bull market peak. For some altcoins, they basically correlate directly to where Bitcoin is, and occasionally you find some altcoins that actually have slightly different paths. But understanding Bitcoin.
We actually had some ones that had a really like quite a divergence actually from Bitcoin. It was pretty interesting to see. Near protocol like didn't really take off till 2022 compared to the other alts. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Bitcoin's kind of bull market cycles is really important to understanding some altcoins. So this particular chart here is Bitcoin paired up with US dollar. We're on the 1 week Bitstamp data. Okay, now in here I've got several different kind of color codes going on. We have yellow, blue, purple, and orange, right? And it repeats itself. Okay, yellow, blue, purple, orange, yellow, blue, purple, orange, and so forth. Now what these represent, if I zoom in just over here, you have your election year, you have 1 year after the election, 2 years after the election, and 3 years after the election. This is the US election, by the way. Okay, why is it this important? Well,
Yeah, that's interesting that he puts it around the election year and not the halving cycle. Because typically the halving cycle is where we think about, kind of where to line this up because it'll come sort of in the beginning. There's kind of a little mini run up to the beginning of the halving, and then kind of a lull after the halving, and then the really big run up comes after that. So, but it is an election year, so that's coincidental.
the Bitcoin halving event happens in the election year. You can see
There
it
you
over
go.
here in 2012. You can see it over here in 2016. You can see it here in 2020 and 2024. Okay, so lots of people have kind of speculated that the Bitcoin halving is a huge catalyst for big bull markets, right? However, actually, in reflection to the data, it might just be a coincidence that the market is moving the way that it is based on the Bitcoin halving event, and it might actually have a lot more to do with the US political landscape. Okay, now in here we can see the US election year of 2012, okay, and we can have a bull market peak up 1 year after. The election year of 2016, bull market peak the year after. The election year of 2020, bull market peak the year after. The election year of 2024, bull market peak 2025, right? That's kind of the idea of what's going on here. Now,
By the way, you guys can hear this, right? I know there was some problems with that before, but I think I got it fixed. So if you can't hear it, let me know in chat.
when we start thinking about Bitcoin and how it has historically moved, here in 2013's bullish market, there was a double peak situation. Essentially, we have a early Q2 bull market peak, a collapse, and then a final Q4 move to the upside. Okay, so bull market peak actually happened here in late November, beginning of December, okay, the year after the US election. That was 2013, right? Then we come over to the next election year, okay, so 2016. Our bull market peak was up here at the beginning of December, so 11th December, we commence in then, this being Q4, a bull market peak, okay, perfect. So as we come over here to our election year of 2020, bull market peak of 2020, we see the initial peak here, and this was again April, so we're talking beginning of Q2, and then a final peak of the bull market up in November 2021. Okay, so again Q4. Okay, so out of the three bullish markets for Bitcoin, what do we see? Well, we can see that the bull market peak has always been Q4 of the year after the US election, or the year after the Bitcoin halving event. Although I think in time we're going to see how that changes, because the Bitcoin halving event is not on a 4-year cycle, believe it or not. It actually gets shorter and shorter every time. Okay, so
I thought it's been pretty reliably right around every 4 years. So that'll be, if that's true, that's very interesting. I haven't noticed that yet, but okay.
basically 1 year after the election,
Well, actually, yeah, you can kind of see how it's getting a little bit shorter each time. Okay.
Q4 is a Bitcoin bull market peak. However, there's one other thing that we can note from this data. We see an alternating potential here. Okay, so we have a double peak here in 2013, single peak in 2017, double peak in 2021. So the expectation should be single peak in 2025.
Which, by the way, people were really upset about. A lot of people thought this second peak was going to be much higher, and that didn't happen. And I know I saw some pretty prominent people who bought right around this second peak. If you look at the 1 year right in the middle of the screen, and yeah, it took a while for them to recover, couple of years. So you got to really pay attention to the cycles and buy in the low spots, not the high spots. And it's the thing that everyone knows that. Everyone knows that intellectually, but no one gets excited emotionally. You get excited when it's going up, and that's when you want to buy in, but that really should be when you're starting to take some profits. When it's down, that's when people are unexcited about crypto, but that's really when you should be buying in.
And then a double peak potentially later down the line, and so forth. Okay, so in terms of us trying to predict where altcoins are going to find their, bull run kind of peak, it's important to understand where Bitcoin has historically always seen its bull market peaks, which has always been Q4 of 2024. Q4 of the year after the election, I should say. Okay, so now that we have an understanding on Bitcoin and when Bitcoin tends to finish its cycle highs, let's take a deeper look at Algorand here. Okay, so this is Algorand paired up with USDT. We're on the 1-day Binance chart here. And as you can kind of see, and as we kind of went through in previous videos, specifically around Algorand, where to kind of dollar cost average out, or where we think the next kind of bullish highs are going to be, we can see some interesting kind of stuff going on here. Okay, so let's go ahead and just take a quick look at our chart here. So we can see that we have data here on the Binance chart going all the way back to basically the very early stages of the June crash of 2019. And then, of course, we go into kind of March 2020 lows and the previous bullish market high. Now, in here, we have some really interesting kind of things that we need to kind of think about, right?
By the way, that I think it's interesting that he called it a crash, because actually that was the botched launch. So I don't know. Some of you probably, a lot of you are probably aware of this, but for those that aren't aware of this, like Algorand launched at like 3 something, like 313 or something like that, and then it just straight up crashed immediately. So, and we've never actually regained that $3 level. So when we say, we talk about $3 to $5, like remember those would be like all-time highs for Algorand, but not over 3 isn't really that much of a new all-time high. Like it was at 3 something when it launched. Yeah, I'd really love to hear from somebody who is involved with that, who knows a little bit about that, because I think that's pretty interesting. But anyway.
As we can kind of see the sentiment on the behaviors of kind of the buyers and traders of Algorand during 2020 and 2021, we can see that there's a good kind of surge to the upside, followed by correction, surge to the upside, followed by correction, and then finally a kind of double peak towards the end of the bullish market. Okay, so as we kind of reflect on this, what do we have? Well, we have the kind of initial surges of 2020. This aligns with pretty much everything else. We then kind of bottom out towards the end of 2020, around November 2020 to be exact. And then we get into that first initial run to the upside. Now, this is kind of very typical to kind of what happened with Bitcoin and many altcoins actually back in 2021, where they kind of peaked out a little bit early in Q1 or Q2 or early Q2, right? And so here you can see February highs pulling back, and it's quite a significant drop on Algorand during that time. So that initial kind of spike to the upside was a 63% move to the downside, basically going from February to June. After June, we do see a lift to the upside where we actually finally hit a bullish peak. Okay, so what we're seeing here, now obviously there's not a huge amount of
By the way, I know someone who bought right on that X. Like they've since DC. I learned they since DCA'd, so they lowered their costs. But yeah, that was a rough one. They bought in and they bought in pretty significantly, and it just dropped. Obviously, I'm not gonna say who it is, but I remember he told me, and I was like, "Oops, what are you gonna do?"
history to kind of rely on terribly too much. But what it does tell us is that we should be expecting very much similar kind of behaviors, these kind of surges, collapses, surge, collapse, surge, right? This is not an impulsive run. It's not a trend-based move to the upside from like an Elliott wave perspective. But we can in fact see that this was a corrective X wave before actually coming down into a Y wave pattern, right? So we know that this was a very corrective pattern, and things have changed a little bit with how things are currently going. But if history were to repeat itself in terms of like trying to time the market, it would tell us that we should expect Q1 to be a very interesting time for Algorand and potentially see a bit more of a drop to the downside before actually finishing that bullish run, where that would happen more towards kind of Q4 as history.
Which is, I mean, that's basically what I've been telling you guys since for the last, I don't know how long, probably 2 months. You know, I just think it's interesting that we had this little run up because I don't think we had quite that same, maybe a little bit. Yeah, if you look at the charts, I mean, there was kind of a little run up and then it kind of fell back. I mean, if you look at the September on the left, just above, kind of to the right of his head, you can see that it kind of went up. It's kind of actually kind of following that same pattern. Where wait, am I misreading that? No, maybe not. No, I take that back. I thought that was before. Okay. Yeah, so it's actually hard to kind of say because the time period we're in now is kind of like when it launched and kind of crashed right away. So I retract that last part, but yeah, interesting. Like I said, that the X and then the little pump up before that. I mean, that's what we're looking at most likely for next year. That's what I've been saying too.
Historically we have seen here being November of 2021. Now, obviously, with what happened previously being very different to what we see right now, we have to understand that we've already had a 5-wave surge to the upside. This is basically spanning those lows of August 2023 to basically Q1 of 2024. We then, of course, have had a move to the downside and then this great run to the upside. This is very similar to basically exiting the bear market and having this collapse towards the end of the year before rallying to the upside, right? So we have this great surge into kind of mid kind of Q3 times for Algorand, then a collapse down into Q4, right? Now this is slightly different because of the structure, but we can see a surge into 2024, collapse down towards kind of mid Q3, and then a great run to the upside, right? So that great run to the upside, we can kind of see here coming in from these lows, right? So March 2020 up to August time, bit of a drop to the downside kind of into November. Now, obviously for us, we had a slightly different variation here just because of the inauguration of Donald Trump and all that kind of stuff and the pro-crypto stuff. But nonetheless, we can see a great run to the upside. This is very much an expected crash at the moment, and we are still looking for a lift to the upside with a kind of Q1 target range of around 89.27 cents, kind of accomplishing that kind of 1.618 kind of final move. So if this plays out as I would expect, I would be looking at this as a wave 1, this is a wave 2, a great move up higher than 89.27 into our wave 3, ending at around kind of February, March time, looking for a correction down a few months or so, probably taking us into kind of June, maybe a little bit later, before finally finishing off that kind of final fifth wave move to the upside in and around kind of the Q4 November time. This is a 5-wave move to the upside, and kind of how I envision us kind of looking at a great reversal across multiple years. This does, of course, mean that it's going to be a lower high on the daily time frame across the years. As you can see from 2019, we could be looking at.
But why? Why is it? Why does he think it's going to be a lower high? I don't think he really explained that very well. I know we did have a lower low, so that might have something to do with it. But I think it's really strange to say that. But there's not really like much reason given for there being a lower low. He's just kind of charting it out. Well, this is what it did before, and this is what it will do again. So I don't know if I'm super convinced. I'm curious what you guys have to say about it.
Maybe pushing out a little bit, maybe towards $2 if we're lucky, into those kind of ranges here to kind of hit a kind of trend line. But that aside, what we can see is basically a formation that's going to be insanely bullish for the kind of coming cycles. And what I mean by that is we completed a WXY pattern to the downside. A 5-wave pattern will be the reversal and potentially can be labeled an A wave, with a B wave for a bear market going up into new higher highs in the kind of 2029 kind of cycle. So for us right now, in terms of this video of trying to time the market, I'll be looking at 2 distinct peaks for Algorand. We'll be looking at kind of Q1 for our wave 3, a wave 4 that will take us into summer, and then from there we're looking for a rally up to the kind of Q4 finishing peak of the 2025 bullish market. So there you have it, right? My thoughts and opinions as to trying to time the market for Algorand. Now, obviously, this is finger in the air kind of stuff. It's not going to be exactly playing out as we have done historically, but it gives us a bit of an idea and a bit of a way of kind of trying to map out time with our current structures of what is going on with Algorand's price action. If you found this video helpful and informative anyway, smash up.
Well, that was interesting. I could bring this down. Yeah, let's see what you guys thought about it. I thought it was kind of a strange video, to be honest. I mean, I just don't see what, maybe I don't know this wave theory, but I'm just generally skeptical of technical analysis. I just don't think there's a lot of there, but let's see what people thought. So CX says, I just talked about Algorand on web forums. I'm on to Shell. Saeed says, because the hash rate increases significantly, so miners are mining at a slightly faster rate than they should be. Are you talking about, I assume you're talking about Bitcoin. Xavier L. Martin, isn't it obvious that Algorand is the best blockchain by far? Why is the market cap so low compared to the other top 5 cryptos? It blows my mind. Well, that's something I've been wondering for a while, and we got Sewell here, so we're gonna bring him on in a second. I just want to get through some chats. Actually, why don't we'll bring up Sewell. Hey man, what's going on?
Yo, what's good, BC? Frugal BC, what's good?
Well, we're just wrapping up. Did you watch this video with us, or did you just pop on?
I just popped on. I was having some trouble. Am I frozen right now?
Yeah, the videos, I can hear you, but the video is frozen.
Let me hop back out and I'll come back in.
Okay, sounds good. Do you want to give me like 5 minutes? I just want to get through the chats here and finish up this video.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, thanks, man. It says if Algo goes tax-free, we are golden. Said says it's not obvious though. ICP, HBAR, ADA seem like major contenders for bust blockchain, but I agree Algo should be way higher than it is now. Should be at least in the top 10 IMO. Yeah, I'm a big fan of all of those, to be honest. They call them the Dino chains. I think that's kind of silly, but Xavier says psychology is really messing with the valuation. History in a sense shouldn't mean anything as an all-time high. Comparing blockchain's utility, tech, and adoption, and with that future expectations, just like in the stock market. Yeah, I think I think crypto is very different from the stock market in a lot of ways. It's really hard to judge based on fundamentals. But yeah, I've been a big fan of Algorand because I just think it's one of the most useful blockchains with stuff to actually do on it. So it's really, really awesome. Let's see, so crypto is all about hype. It's a big part of it. Stocks are a combination of hype and financial performance. Well, there's a lot more. The market really cares about fundamental values when it comes to stocks. And that's not quite the true in crypto. Although recently what we saw some reversal of that, utility coins really had a run up, which is awesome. Everyday Frugal says you have to adjust. Frugal, you have to adjust. Everyday Algorand says Frugal, you have to adjust also distribution of coins. In 2021, there was distributed only something like 50%. There's now over 80%. I wonder when the fully distribution. Well, I know people like to talk about that, and theoretically it makes sense, but I haven't seen that make a huge difference, because why would we have a lower low and lower highs when we have more distributed, right? So we'll see. I mean, it might, like I said, we'll see. I just think it's generally like a bad idea to make price predictions with too much confidence. It's best just to have a plan. Like I said on my earlier, I said it's a good idea to have this plan and go for the plan. Follow the plan, and if it goes up higher, your plan still works. It's just take profits as it goes up. Always have some dry powder available. Always have some in the tank, ready to go, and you'll do fine. Xavier L. Martin says, Said, I think you're right. If Algorand lands a CBDC or more, the hype will be astronomical. Said says a lot of cryptos really do nothing but are worth billions. Exactly.